Amazing. So turning on to our fireside, I'm so excited to be here with Emma Stern. She is the co-founder and COO at Felix Health. She started her career in management consulting. Oh, I keep doing this. I keep saying
the other one, but
the other one, investment banking.
Investment banking. Yeah.
I did the same like 3 times already. Like I think it's the same profession.
Honestly, same difference.
And Dan went on to be a chief of staff and head of operations for 500px, and now starting her business. Emma, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. It's been so much fun.
So let's go back to the way beginning. So you studied at the University of St. Andrews.
Yes, I did.
In the UK.
I'm from Toronto, but I traveled to Scotland to go to university where I was studying economics, which was awesome for all 4 years. So that was my little jaunt abroad. And then after that, I came back to Toronto to start working.
So while studying, for the students in the room, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah, I thought a lot about this actually after we spoke before this, because I think honestly when I left high school, I hadn't the faintest clue, and I was really focused on where I wanted to go to university and mostly focused on the social aspect of why I wanted to go to a certain place. But I did know I wanted to study economics, and I very quickly there became focused on becoming an investment banker. It became like this elite dream of mine. I think that at that time, a lot of people in finance and in any kind of management studying were focused on banking as an entry level job. So I kind of made it my goal to get one of those.
Yeah. So you came back and you started as an associate at Origin Partners, and did just that. Started working on some of these deals. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, it's funny. When I became so obsessed with becoming an iBanker, I don't actually think I knew what it was, frankly. So it wasn't until I was there that I really learned kind of what an investment banker did do. I specifically was working in M&A, so helping companies buy and sell themselves or other companies. It's an advisory role, as opposed to something like sales and trading where you're dealing with stocks. And I was there for about 4 years, and even though I am very much not in banking today, I am incredibly grateful for the things that I learned. Obviously, I learned a tremendous amount about how to value a business and the process of selling or buying a company. But it was more like the more kind of holistic intangibles, the real education that I got in banking was more around like how to work and what work really is. So like if there's 2 things that I took away that I think are like incredible things for a new grad to get to learn, and something I'm so grateful for. The first would be that when you stop learning at school and go to work, it can be really challenging to really understand that like the value exchange has shifted. And sometimes it can take people a really long time to realize that actually like their entire lives, the entire institution around them has been built to support them and to make them succeed and make sure that they grow. And suddenly, that's the opposite. You're being paid to be there, and you need to add value to them, and you need to help them grow. That can be a harder and longer lesson to learn in other industries, but you find out right away in banking, like real quick. And I'm really grateful for that because it helped me, change my mindset quickly and like start to figure out how I could be of value. And then the second thing, I mean, obviously this is typical of banking, but I learned how to work really hard. So even though obviously founding a company is a tremendous amount of work, it's like child's play compared to being an investment banking analyst from a, grind perspective in terms of just like sheer hours. So it's baptism by fire. But I am certainly grateful for that, and it makes everything else seem a little easier.
I love that. If the equation from studying is that there's an institution around you to help you learn, and then investment banking is that you're there to provide value, I wonder what the equation is for building a startup.
Oh, God. I mean, for a startup, it's actually, it's interesting. It's another transformation where it's like, you're no longer there to add value to the institution. You're there to create an institution that adds value to people or businesses if you're a B2B, but my business is a D2C, so I'm going to talk through that lens.
Love that.
Where you can build something that convinces everyday people to part with their hard-earned money to engage with it, and to engage with it hopefully over and over and over again. So
I
definitely
think
another
Emma
shift.
Stern is there to challenge the institution.
We'll see about that. But
I love it.
I mean, in healthcare, with what we're doing at Felix, definitely
yeah.
up into a point, or to supplement the institution and help it is how we see it.
I love it. So you didn't jump right to Felix. You actually went to 500px, and you took on a role of chief of staff, which is a role that I think we don't speak enough about, but like a really foundational role, I'm sure, in your career.
Totally. And this is probably the part of my career where I lucked out hardest, because I didn't know the first thing about what a chief of staff was, or really how tech companies worked or operated or anything. And I left banking because, like I said, I don't know if I mentioned this already, but I just felt that I was jealous of, I wanted to be like my clients, the people who owned the businesses. I didn't want to be like my bosses who were the bankers. So I was like, okay, ultimately I've learned a lot, but I got to move on. And I felt that, sorry, what was the question again? Sorry, I'm pregnant, and when you're pregnant, you forget everything.
What did you learn, as a chief of staff?
Oh, right, chief of staff.
500px?
Yeah, okay. So I applied for a financial analyst role at 500px because they were hiring for, and I was like, that's me. That's the only thing I can do. And actually, I was so lucky because the CEO at the time interviewed me, and he said, you know what, I was thinking about hiring a chief of staff, and I'd love to offer you that job as well. So I did both jobs at first. And it's just if you ever have an opportunity to do a chief of staff role, I really, really recommend you take it. Obviously, they differ quite a bit depending on who you're supporting. But ultimately, you're there to be a multiplier for the CEO or whoever it might be, and it really gives you a portal into exactly what it takes to be a founder. You understand their challenges. You get access to every meeting, to every pain and suffering, but also to all the agony and the ecstasy of what it means. And you get asked to use your judgment and make big decisions at a very, relatively junior stage in your career, which helps you start to really hone and develop your judgment and your decision-making skills and your ability to be decisive, and all those things that are become invaluable if you do proceed with founding your own business eventually.
Yeah, and as a founder, the chief of staff is a massive unlock too. So if you're
then get yourself one. If you
get yourself
exactly.
one eventually. All right, so in 2019 is when you decided to found Felix. So can you tell us a little bit about that aha moment, or what brought you to solving this problem?
Yeah, so Felix, for those who don't know, is it's a digital healthcare platform. We provide on-demand treatment for everyday health for Canadians. So that's just a fancy way of saying you can connect with a doctor and they get a prescription, and then we deliver that prescription to your door. So we kind of say from diagnosis to delivery, it's end-to-end solutions for specific therapeutic categories. We've been working on it, like you said, since 2019. I think what really my co-founder Kyle and I sparked the idea for us is just seeing what was happening in the U.S. and other markets, and more specific, companies were doing similar things, and we kind of sat there and we said, well, why can't we have that in Canada? And neither of us were doctors, and neither of us were pharmacists, and neither of us actually were technical. We're just two patients in the Canadian healthcare system, really. And we were like, why can't we have convenient healthcare options? So we decided to try to build one ourselves.
And when we were chatting earlier, you said that naivete,
Yes.
as a French person, I should say it right, naivete.
Yeah, the naivete was extreme. It is
was
extreme.
But it was
Yeah.
actually a competitive advantage for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that I don't think that anyone who actually knew anything about how the healthcare system worked would have done it because it would have been very obvious to them that there were some massive red flags in terms of how we could get things past certain approvals, and ultimately, because we didn't know what we didn't know, we did it anyways, and we're so glad we did. And we think really that's what makes Felix so patient-centric as a platform and as a product for users, because it puts the patient at the center of care. Most platforms are built either through the lens of a doctor or a physician, or through the lens of an administrator, or through the lens of a pharmacist. A lot of digital digital online pharmacies are built by pharmacists. and they kind of don't wrap the patient in the circle of care in the same way. So I think it did help us. It was built by patients for patients, and I think that's felt still today.
Love that. And so you decided to go into business with Kyle, your co-founder. You said something about like perhaps he brought several ideas to you, and that one just hit.
Well, he's founded many businesses before, and
Okay.
he's had very successful, other businesses. And yeah, he's actually my husband's best friend. That's how I know him. And he, was kind of looking for his next thing, and he had all these different kind of ideas that he would talk to us about. And I was always like, oh, cool, whatever. And I mean, he was at our house for dinner and he was telling my husband about this idea, and I kind of popped my head around the door and I was like, I will do that with you. Do that with me. And kind of forced him to let me start it with him. And the rest is
love
history.
So we talked about this a little bit. A few questions came up about like, how do I find my co-founder? So like, that's a big decision to go in business with him. Like what?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think Roz said it really well, like have the tough conversations up front. And I wasn't looking for a business to start. I didn't actually think that was like something I wanted to do necessarily, nor was I looking for a co-founder to start a business because I wasn't looking for a business. It's just that when I met a person who had someone who I liked a lot, who had an idea that I loved, it all just seemed to come together. But we did exactly what you suggested, which we had like really uncomfortable conversations up front. And I'm so glad we did that and laid that groundwork because it's, made everything else much easier for us.
There's a few healthcare builders in the room. So tell us, like, what has surprised you as someone who like wasn't from healthcare about building in that industry?
I think for us, we expected every patient, I was just saying to my friend Jess, we expected every Canadian patient to be like, oh yeah, this is amazing, I need that. And we expected to have to spend a lot of time and attention winning over the medical community. Whereas like right away, all the doctors were like, oh, that's amazing, I want to do that. And we had to spend a lot of time winning over the patients or just, getting our name out there. So I think that it was, we were surprised by that. And then also it's always surprising when you understand like the legislation and then how the colleges work, just how much they don't contemplate technology. They're just kind of don't make sense anymore in the modern world.
So you're scaling fast now. Can you walk us through some of the big scale challenges that you have overcome?
Oh man, I mean, there have been many different scale challenges, as anyone who has their own business knows. But for us, like the one that was like our Everest at the beginning was we first started with the pharmacy component of our business because we're shipping out thousands and thousands of prescription packages a day. But they were coming from a partner pharmacy. Like Felix didn't own a pharmacy. That's like a big undertaking. So we didn't have a warehouse. We didn't have all that logistics. But then we decided like we wanted to make more money and to improve our customer experience. So we decided to open our own warehouse pharmacies. And we were also naive about that. So about 2.5 years after starting the business, we undertook that and we kind of told our partners like, see you later, we can do this ourselves. And it was really, 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 really difficult. It was a big transition from like being a bits and bytes company to a molecules company, something we knew nothing about. Managing a completely different kind of staff. It was definitely a challenge, but ultimately we just had to learn and we had to go through it.
Yeah, you're also a product company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a big thing.
It's apparently they're totally different.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And so now what's next? Like, so you've conquered that. What's the next big hill?
I mean, we have been kind of growing the platform since we started adding new therapeutic categories and like healthcare categories to our offering. Every few months. But we have a really exciting new one coming, which is a big departure in a way from what we've done in the past, which is, longevity and kind of general testing to allow Canadians to be more preventative in their approach to their healthcare, which we think is something that's missing substantially from our current system just because, we've got such an overloaded system today. It makes it very difficult for Canadians to access that kind of care. So we're really excited about that, and that's kind of our next foray. We think it's kind of what's next for healthcare in general.
I love that. I'm gonna turn it over to the audience in just a few minutes, but I do want to go a little bit more on the balance side of things. So, and as a woman who has built a business while also growing a family, I have tons of admiration for you with two kids at home, one on the way. What are your tricks for balancing it all?
Any tricks? I have no tricks. I don't have any tricks, but I do have like a shameless ability to ask for help all the time. And I think it's just like, you gotta lean into that, both at work. You gotta ask your co-founder, get a co-founder and ask them. You gotta ask your staff, you gotta ask your family when you have a baby, you have to ask your friends, just ask for help. You can't do it yourself. Don't hero ball anything. Learn to delegate at home and at work. Because if you can do that, then there's nothing you can't handle. But
And you and I bonded a little bit about that. I shared it
Definitely.
on LinkedIn for folks that might follow me. But like you mentioned that like entrepreneurship just fits your lifestyle better.
absolutely.
And it was so funny because when we were on our prep call, Emma calls me and we start on the video, and then she goes like, "Okay, I have to switch to my phone." And then she switches to her phone and she turns it on in the car, and everything's broken, and like it's just not working. And what I admired the most was that not once did she say sorry. And I was like, I love you, because this happens to me 3 times a day, and I always say sorry. So like Emma.
Yeah,
you're amazing.
Like month 1 of the pandemic, I stopped saying sorry for being muted. I just go right into what you're gonna say. And yeah, no, like, as I said to you, like I let decorum go very quickly because there was too much chaos to be overly focused on always having the perfect background and always being on camera and always, not having children burst through the door. So if you can get past the outside chaos, I think it works.
You're giving us permission. I love
exactly.
it. All right, I'll pass it over to the crowd for questions.
He needs a microphone.
Oh, sorry, you don't have a. Oh, okay. Oh, there we go. Sorry, thank you. As we.
Hi. Thank you for your call Felix Health. So I just ordered the hair growth on your website, and but I still confused because how do you charge it? How do you charge it? And those information is real from the doctor or?
How does the charging work?
Yes.
How to make
How?
money.
Because I still cannot get through the payment section, right? And I'm not sure how that's work. And those
Well, maybe it's broken, all right, my engineering lead.
Yeah.
It should just work.
And the those prescription is from doctor or from?
Yeah, so how it works is you kind of, generally speaking with most of the categories, you'll fill out a questionnaire, like a smart quiz that's going to ask you the vast majority of the questions that a physician would ask you if you were, sitting in front of them asking, talking about a certain issue, like male pattern baldness is a great example. So it goes through all those questions, might ask you to upload a photo depending on what the issue is. And then once you submit the visit, once you submit your questionnaire, a physician or a nurse practitioner is going to pick up that visit. They're going to review all the answers that you've given, and then they'll start a chat with you. For most categories, it can be a text-based chat, although for some, it'll be a video chat. And you'll chat with that healthcare provider, and if it makes sense, they'll issue you a prescription, at which point, if you've selected to use a Felix pharmacy, it'll go to one of our back-end pharmacies, and it'll be at your door within about 24 hours. And then, you'll be able to chat to that healthcare provider, on an ongoing basis for free if you have any side effects or any questions about your medication or want to adjust your dosage. And then it'll just keep coming as long as you want it.
Any other customer support questions
Yeah.
for the co-founder?
One question here.
Nara, data scientist. So my question is, what are those uncomfortable conversations that you should have with your co-founder upfront?
That's a great question. Uncomfortable conversations to have with a co-founder up front. One is like talk about equity, like really quickly. Like how much are you expecting equity-wise? How comfortable are you with the split? Be like brutally honest, because if you don't, it's going to keep you up at night forever after. Talk about what your vision, like how ambitious you feel like you want to be about this business. Because some people, ultimately they're trying to build a lifestyle business, or they're trying to, get this done in 24 months and, sell it for a couple $1 million. Some people are trying to build a unicorn. So I think it's important to understand the level of commitment. We had a kind of a 6-month trial period where we were like, because I had inserted myself into his idea a little bit. I was like, look, I'll do this for 6 months, and if this isn't working between us, like you don't want to ruin this friendship, like pencils down, I'll go do something else. It's okay. So I think having that like exit opportunity was, or kind of off ramp was helpful for us. Oh God, I don't know. I mean, I personally, this is very personal, but I let him know, I was like, in about a year, I'm going to start trying to have my first baby. So like, you should know that, because I'll probably go on mat leave, not for long, but I will. So I was like very honest about that as well. I don't know. I mean, like with that example, everyone has different.
That's a good question.
Everyone has different things, but whatever you think could transpire there. Yeah.
One last question.
Thank you. Just had one question on your switch from, sorry, not your switch, but like you going into the physical warehousing space as well to be able to ship your own the drugs and stuff and like creating your own pharmacy. What was that transition like from going from like the bits to bytes to like the molecule side and like the challenges and like maybe like the mindset shift that you had to kind of go through as a company?
It's a great question. It was, in every way, it was a shift. I mean, I think that we, obviously, like one of the things that we were changing was our liability and our, like to become the pharmacy was not just an exercise in logistics, it was an exercise in like liability and like basically taking on a whole second professional service that we like hadn't actually been doing. Like we always had pharmacy advisors, but we didn't have pharmacists filling the medication. So there was that, but then there was also just like differences of like a brick and mortar warehouse where, we would hire a bunch of people and be so excited about the team, and then half of them wouldn't show up on the third day because they decided they didn't like it, but they didn't call us to tell us, they just weren't there, and there was no one to fill the medication, and we had to think about like assembly lines and efficiencies in a totally different way. We didn't have air conditioning, which we didn't realize until the summer, and then we had to get air conditioning installed. One of our fridges stopped working in the middle of the night once, and we had to throw out some of our medications that were refrigerated, but we didn't have these special pharmacy fridge timer things that you put on the pharmacy fridges that tell you when the power went out, and therefore tells you whether or not you have to throw stuff out. Basically, there was a million things we didn't know.
But it's your moat at the same time, right? Like now it's like
Exactly.
you figured it out. That's
For sure.
awesome.
Yeah. We're very proud of that. Yeah.
I love that. So I'm going to ask the last question, and then Jason will close us off. But what's one motto that you live by as an entrepreneur, or that you take?
Yeah, you told me about this one, so I literally had to write them down. I can't think of one motto.
Okay. There's 3.
But there's 3. But I love an idiom. Like everyone knows I love an idiom or a saying. And so I did speak with my executive team, and there are 3 colloquialisms that they hear a lot. They are, 1, a problem shared is a problem halved, which I think is very true. So reach out for help, talk to people, get a co-founder, I would say, if you don't have one. It really helps to shoulder the weight. 2 is the proof of the pudding is in the eating. This is very, very important with product. You can sit and debate what you think is going to work and what you think isn't until the cows come home, but if you don't put it in the market, you're never going to know if it's true or not. And then the last one is a penny saved is a penny earned, which has always been one of our mottos. We've been, even when we've raised millions and millions of dollars, we were very, very cheap when it comes to things like, air conditioning. Exactly. Yeah, basic human needs really is where we like to cut costs. But yeah, I think it's really easy to fall into a trap when you raise money and start like BMFing all over the place and hiring like crazy and buying a ton of T-shirts. And I'm looking at you, Jason. But ultimately, I think you'll be glad you saved it later.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Emma.
Thank you for having me.